Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mduduzi Xaba. I'm an attorney, legal practitioner at the Strategic Litigation Unit, which falls under the Legal Development Department of Legal Aid at National Office. This Facebook Live broadcast will focus on legal aid and the Strategic Unit and the services that are provided under this unit. It will also touch on Section 34 of the Bill of Rights, that the right to access to court, the right to have your case or to have a hearing in court or in a tribunal, the right to be heard, basically. Also, we will touch on Section 33, because the Strategic Litigation Unit also does a lot of cases that fall under Section 33 of the Constitution, which is the right to just administrative action. If you have any questions during this live broadcast, please leave them on the comments below, and I will be sure to answer them for you. Thank you. All right. Let's start then. What is the Strategic Litigation Unit? That unit is, or before we start with that, let's start with Section 34, so that we've got context as to what a Strategic Litigation Unit does. In terms of Section 34 of the Constitution, everyone has the right to have any dispute that can be resolved by the application of the law decided in a fair public hearing before a court or an appropriate independent tribunal or forum. What does that mean in basic terms is that if you have a dispute with anyone, or you want a resolution in a dispute with any other person or any other entity, even if it's a corporate entity like a company, you've got a right to be assisted and to be provided with legal aid so that you have access to court. We all know that there is this widely held notion that justice is just for those with resources or with wealth. The existence of legal aid, the reason that legal aid came into existence all those years ago, is to make sure that this right becomes reality, that not only those who are wealthy or who've got resources have access to courts. So whether you've got a civil dispute or you are charged criminally or any other form of dispute that needs to be resolved by a court or a tribunal, legal aid, if you qualify for legal aid, depending on your means and resources, you can qualify for legal aid, and legal aid will ensure that right to access, that right to be heard, will become a reality for you and will be provided for you. So that's the reason why that legal aid South Africa exists, to make sure that Section 34 comes to reality for the most vulnerable and the people that are indigent, who've got less resources or no resources at all. So how does this right fits in with the functions of Strategic Litigation Unit? It's that the unit mainly deals with cases that have a larger impact in a community. For example, where you've got a case where a group of people in a building are being evicted, mostly that matter will end up at our unit at National Office. So we deal with cases that will not only assist one person at a time. We deal with the cases that will have a larger impact and have an effect or have positive results for a larger portion of the community or a larger number of individuals. As the example I have made of an eviction that maybe involves 50 or more people. We also deal with cases that deal with constitutional issues. So we deal with cases that affect children's rights, cases that deal with right to dignity, freedom of expression, and the like, all the rights under the Bill of Rights, Chapter 2 of our Constitution. Or we also deal with cases that have to do with the development of the law. If a case involves an issue that will lead to a change or an amendment of any law, so as to develop the jurisprudence around the area of the law, we deal with that as well. So obviously such cases will also involve the interpretation of the Constitution, so such cases will fall under our functions and duties. How do you refer a case to the Strategic Litigation Unit? There's various ways you can do that. The most common way is to come or approach our local offices, any legal aid office that is nearest to your area where you stay. You approach the said office with your case or your issue, your matter. They will take all the details, take all the relevant documents that are needed, and if they assess your case to be falling under the what you call the functions of the strategic unit, then they will contact us and refer the matter to us. We will assess the matter, and if we believe that there's merits or if we need more information, we will then set up an appointment with you. Usually you will come to our national office in Braamfontein, depending on logistics. If it's too far, we come to the community. We will arrange an appointment with our local office and set up an appointment there. Or even if that is not possible, we are allowed and we are encouraged as a unit to go to the communities. So we are able to drive or travel to wherever the community is if the community members are unable or cannot afford to travel and come and meet with us. So that's part of fulfilling one of the core mandates of the organization Legal Aid, which is giving access to justice and access to the courts. Expanding on the mandate of the Strategic Litigation Unit is that after the matter is referred to us, there's a internal committee which is comprised of the chief legal executive and other executives and other managers who will sit down and assess the case to determine whether there is merit in the case or not. If the case is found to be having merit and that we can take it over as the strategic unit, then a budget is passed for that case for the funds to be made available. And lastly, in terms of accessing us, you can also do that even if you've got your own attorney or an organization that is helping you. You can access us through that organization applying for funding. We found cases that we're not going to be the main attorneys on as well, so we can be approached by NGOs, non-governmental organizations or non-profit organizations. They can apply to us to be provided with funding. We do provide funding for cases if we believe that case will have strategic importance for the community or a large group of people. For more information in that regard, you can read our manual, Chapter 7 of the manual. The manual is accessible on our website, the Legal Aid website. You can just search for Legal Aid website, and then under legal documents, you will find the manual, and then you scroll down to Chapter 7 of the manual. You will find a section on strategic litigation, and will give you all the information you need and the process you must follow to make application for strategic litigation funding or for your case to be handled by us as the Strategic Litigation Unit. Now, going back to one aspect we spoke about in the introduction, the right to just administrative action. That right is contained under Section 33 of the Constitution, which provides that everyone has a right to just administrative action. What does this mean? The right to just administrative action means when you deal with public institutions like government departments, government municipalities, government agencies, you've got a right to be provided with the reasons within a reasonable time for a decision. Or firstly, before we get to reasons, we've got a right to be provided with a decision where you've made an inquiry or you've submitted any sort of application that can be termed as administrative action. So you've got a right there to be provided with a decision within a reasonable time, and if the decision is not in your favor or is not a decision you were looking for, you've got a right to be provided with reasons for the decision within a reasonable time. What can be termed a reasonable time ranges from 30 days to 180 days, depending on the nature of the decision and how complex or complicated it is for the administrator to make that decision. You've got a right to be consulted before a decision is made in a aspect of administrative governance that affects your rights. For example, where a local municipality want to change rates in terms of property rates and stuff like that, you've got a right as a community member and as an individual to be consulted. So such consultations take a form of community meetings. So this right speaks to such issues. So the SLU deals mostly, not mostly, we've got many cases that we deal with which deal with this right, where we challenge decisions by government officials that affect individuals or communities or large groups of people. An example I can make is where a mining right is granted in an area, in a rural area, and a community was not consulted or the community is not happy with the decision. We will assist in that regard if the community wants to challenge the decision by the minister to grant a mining right in their area without consulting them or without their approval. So in such cases, as a form of an example, and if you approach us for assistance as a community or as a group of individuals, we will come on board if we assess that the case has merit and we can provide funding and provide legal services and litigate on behalf of the community. So that is the form of administrative law cases that we deal with. I think in the nutshell, that is the what we can talk about regarding Section 34, the right to access to courts, and the right to have disputes adjudicated upon by courts and to be provided with legal aid to have that access, and the right to just administrative action under Section 33. Also, with regards to the functions and the mandate of the Strategic Litigation Unit within legal aid. Thank you.
Thanks, Mduduzi. You mentioned the word merit just now.
Yes.
You said, does the case have merit? Could you explain that a little bit more? What does that mean? Who decides? Is it something that's specific to legal aid SA? How does that work?
No, in general, merits refer to what we term in legal terms prospects of success. It's where you look at all the available information, look at the facts, and marry that with the law and see where on the face of it, will you be able to convince a court, a judge, to rule in your favor? So merits encompass that, whether you've got enough information on your side, enough facts on your side. Does the law support your case? That's what it does. So the initial stage, I deal with that together with my manager, my supervisor Nzame, Advocate Nzame Skibi. In the unit, we look at that. If we see that there's merits in the case, we will then do a report to the committee I referred to earlier on. Maybe I can just give the full name of the committee, which is the Constitutional Case Management Committee. Shortly, it's called CCMC Committee. So we refer the case to that committee. That committee, as I said earlier on, is comprised of different people who are mostly lawyers with more experience than myself and my manager, who've been with legal aid for a long time, who deal with the complex cases, and they assess that and they make a decision. If that committee is also not certain whether there's merit or not, we can even use the organization's funds and contract an outside senior counsel to give us an opinion on the matter. And then if the opinion from counsel comes back to us and say there's a case, we can assist the people, then we give a positive outcome and we give legal aid on those bases. If that committee says no, there's no merit, then it means the application is declined. This is applicable to both, whether you're applying to us as our direct client or you're coming through an organization that represents you applying for funding. In both cases, the process is the same. The merits are assessed, the budget is assessed. If this merits, a budget is passed for that particular case, and then the decision is communicated back to the applicant. If the decision is negative, the application is refused, you still have an option to appeal that decision by that committee, the CCMC committee, appeal to the CEO. In the letter that we send to you advising you of the outcome, if it's a negative outcome, a refusal, we will tell you of the process of how you appeal to the CEO, give you the details and the timelines that are applicable. So it's a streamlined process that it's very clear, and it's put in simple terms for even the most, I don't know what's the word, maybe the most basic individuals can understand the process.
Excellent. I'm noticing the banner, one of the banners behind you. It
Yes.
says, Legal Aid SA defends and represents without fear or favor. So one of the questions we receive quite regularly is, can people approach us, and can people approach the Strategic Litigation Unit to sue the state, to sue the government about something? Could you clarify that, please?
Yes. As I made an example earlier on, especially the administrative law cases in terms of Section 83, we deal mostly, or we've got cases against government departments. So in those type of cases, we fight head-on against the government. So it's very much possible. And even if you take your normal criminal case, we're fighting for the people against the state. So we mostly fight for the people against so-called superpowers. So even private entities, we also take them on, especially, as I said, for example, in the case of a mining right, you will find an international company, a multinational company that has applied for a mining right in the Republic, and the community fights against that company. We still come on board if the case has merits. We fight for them. So we don't look at the opponent and say we run scared or we have fear. That's why the slogan says without fear and without prejudice. So yes.
Fantastic. Could you give us some examples of strategic litigation matters that the public would know about? Some maybe very public cases, high-profile cases, those that we've handled, and even those
Yes.
that we've funded.
Yes. The most basic one is the class action case of the silicosis, what is known as the silicosis case. The organization funded that case and was part of the legal teams that were there. You will recall that case obviously involved a large number of people, so there were a lot of legal teams, high-profile legal firms, and Legal Aid was part of that and represented a number of people with very highly positive outcomes as well. Other cases that we can think of, we've been involved as well in the cases where laws have been challenged, the constitutionality of provisions of acts. We've been successful in that. We've partnered with organizations like funded cases for Section 27, the case of Michael Komape, if I'm getting the name correct. We were part of that. We funded that litigation. So yes, we do get a lot of high-profile cases. We also, now that's come into my recollection, Esitimeni, we were part of that. We represented the families of the victims, and we also was part of the case. We were part of the case, funded the case where the constitutionality of the prescription in sexual assault matters was challenged, and it actually led to the change in the law. So we've been part of high-profile and significant cases, and we continue in that regard.
We have a question from Temba.
Yeah.
Are you not conflicted, since it's the state which the legal aid is defending when we... Are you not conflicted since it's the state which legal aid defending the accused, and yet it's the state prosecuting the accused? I don't know. I think there's a few too many words there.
Yeah, I think I get the gist. That notion is always out there, that because we was the so-called, it's actually linked to how we get our funding. That we are a public institution and we get our funding from the fiscus, so we are likely conflicted, which is not true. If you consider that in the Constitution provides for section or for Chapter 9 institution like your public protector, we are independent. The only thing that links us to the state is the fiscus, which does not mean that because we get money from the state, it means we are subject, or we report to the, or not report, but we are dependent on the state as such, because we are an independent Chapter 9 institution that is created specifically to be independent from the National Prosecuting Authority. So whatever we do is not subject to the state as such. We only report to the Department of Justice our performance and our financial results, which does not equate to being part of the state as such. So if you want to understand more on that respect, I think you will just have to refer to Chapter 9 of the Constitution, which will give you more clarity about the issue of independence. But just to put your mind at ease, Legal Aid is an independent body that is not affiliated or related to the state when it comes to prosecuting of criminal cases.
It's even part of our logo.
Yes.
Maybe you can just point to it, because Themba can't see me, but it says independent and within reach.
Yes, that slogan there is not said just to make it a catchphrase. It's based on the fact that in terms of the law, the Constitution, we are independent. So it reflects or depicts the reality on the ground.
One more question has popped up in Mduduzi. In terms of the types of matters, you mentioned if there's constitutional issues, development of the law, a larger community, larger impact. So does the Strategic Litigation Unit generally handle or fund civil matters or criminal matters? Is it a mix of both?
It's a mix of both, but I would say majority, 90% will be civil in nature, because if you look at constitutional law cases by itself, it's a civil case. Administrative law case will be a civil case. A criminal case will come to us maybe if it's a Supreme Court of Appeal matter, when it's going to the Supreme Court, or if it's now going to the accused wants to challenge the case at the Constitutional Court, because our local offices have enough capacity to deal with the criminal cases at the beginning stages when they are at the magistrate court or the high court. We've got now enough personnel there which are able to deal with cases. Once they become more involved and more strategic in nature, where they involve constitutional issues, and it goes to Supreme Court of Appeal, and where there's senior counsel that needs to be instructed or be involved in the case, then a criminal case can come to us on that aspect. But at the initial stages, our local offices are quite capable of handling criminal cases. So yeah, you would say our work is mostly civil cases of a strategic nature. Yes.
Themba has another question.
All right.
And they're asking about the success rate in terms of our litigation, in terms of strategic litigation. So maybe it is also worth mentioning perhaps an idea of how many strategic litigation cases we generally take on in a year.
In a year, yes.
And and how many of those do we
become successful?
Yes, or we have a successful outcome.
Yes. I would say on average we take on maybe 30 cases in a year of strategic nature, and I would say 90% have a positive outcome, or what we can term a positive outcome. A positive outcome will vary. It's not always outright win. You can get a positive outcome in a form of that the area of the law that was vague or was not clear at the time will become clarified by the court, and a precedent will be set, even though not necessarily that the person has received money at the end of the day, because some people will measure their success in terms of receiving something, or maybe getting your property back or something of that nature, but it's not always that case. But in terms of positive outcomes, I would say we are at 90%.
Excellent. He has asked another question, but it's about human resources. So Themba, we will reply to your comment with a link, but generally if you have any queries about career opportunities, you are welcome to visit our website. And there is a menu item that is called Career Opportunities, and you'll be able to see our vacancies there. Mduduzi is a good example of someone who's been with the organization for many years, has moved from different offices and different roles, so there's definitely many good opportunities and opportunities for growth.
For growth, definitely. You can go up all the way up to being a CEO of the organization.
Alrighty. Okay.
All right. Thank you, guys, for joining us today. If you have any further questions on the topic, you can call the toll-free line of Legal Aid, the Legal Aid Advice line on 0800 110 110. It operates on weekdays between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. If you cannot call, you can send a please call me to the following number 079 835 7179, and we will call you back. Thank you for your time. Lastly, be sure to catch our next Facebook Live broadcast tomorrow afternoon, Wednesday, the 27th of March at 2 p.m., where we will be unpacking the rights of children in terms of Section 28 of the Bill of Rights. Our representatives will also engage on this right with you and take questions and provide answers for you. Thank you. Goodbye.